Excited to have with me today Alex Falcon-Huerta. Have I pronounced that correctly, Alex?
Oh, you did that so well. Well done. Really great.
Brilliant. So Alex is here, and in fact, Alex and I go back, a fairly long way. The last time Alex and I spoke was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, at an accountants event where we were both there. We were both learning about something from someone, and yeah, it's been a while. So we've both kind of gone on a journey since then. It was good to catch up with Alex. We were just having a chat before kicking off today about where she is and what she's done, and she has achieved a hell of a lot in the last few years. So I'm excited to get into that with Alex. So if you're here, as always, you can ask any question you like. Just put it in the comments below and I will put it to Alex. And if you have any comments or if you're liking what you hear, give us a thumbs up. Let us know that it's resonating with you. That would be awesome. So without further ado, let's get started. First of all, just a brief introduction, Alex, about yourself before we get stuck in. So take it away, Alex.
Yeah, cool. Hi, everybody. So I launched Soaring Falcon back in 2015 to be digital, remote, paperless, and all that stuff. And my prime goal at the time was because I wanted to travel and I wanted to work internationally. And so I basically put everything I possibly could in place to make sure that at some point I could actually do all the things I dreamed of doing in my career. So yeah, most of my clients are international, and I look after their UK subsidiary, and then I help people from the UK, and I launch and help people launch overseas as well. So and there's probably like a theme around that. It's all around traveling. So finding people and clients around places I want to visit. So it's not just like an overnight thing or COVID. It's something that I've had in the back of my mind for years. So yeah, just a little bit of background, because I'm sure we're going to be talking quite a lot throughout this session anyway. So there you go.
We are indeed. So Alex, talk to me a little bit about your practice. So what's the makeup of the practice? I know you're based in Bedford. So this is all about your journey from Bedford to Bali. So, how many team members do you have? How long have you been trading? Just to give us kind of a sense of what your practice looks like and how many years you had been trading before you made this big leap, which we'll talk about next.
So yeah, I launched the Soaring Falcon back in 2015. So I've been trading for 6 years. So there is a significant amount of time, and I've learned a hell of a lot, and I've had very many ups and downs, highs and lows through all the challenges, and listening to as many people as possible in terms of like the processes and what to do. In terms of the whole process and the team size, I have a fully remote team in Philippines and in Sri Lanka, and I do have a couple of people in the UK, and so that team has now grown to, again, quite a small team. There's 10, I think. I can't remember. Yeah, it's 10 of us, so that's grown over time slowly. And in terms of I can't remember the other thing that you said, Reeza, sorry. There's a few questions in one.
You've been so Alex is so laid back in that Bali mindset that you forget.
No.
So you've been going a few years, 10 team members, before you actually went to Bali, what kind of what kind of things were you putting in place? And okay, talk to us now about that moment where you was it just an overnight thing that you thought, right, okay, I want to be able to run my practice from wherever I want to? And then is that kind of, the moment where you started to kind of put the building blocks in place to be able to make that happen? Talk us through kind of your thinking in that regard.
Yeah, so I guess if you just kind of strip it back to about 2013, 14, like all this cloud technology was coming out more and more. And in my head, I was like, right, if I can do all this via cloud, I can essentially be based anywhere. And I've always traveled. I've always, I don't really spend my money on like loads of clothes and things like that. It's more about what destination can I go to, and I've done that pretty much since I was 16, and I've just gone traveling somewhere random in the world, and I think that started off like going to Canada when I was 16, and so and I just experienced something, and I thought, this is what I want to continue doing for the rest of my life. So when the cloud technology started coming out for accountancy, it was just something that I wanted to do from the beginning of my business. And so I probably spent about 6 months researching all the different tech stack, which has completely changed now today. Even 6 years later, technology changes really fast. And so even during my first year of my business, of course, I was working on it quite a lot to build it, but I still tested it. So I would go to Cyprus, for example, and I'll spend time there, and I'll make sure that things were working from somewhere where I felt comfortable, because my brother he lives in Cyprus. So I was in and out all the time. And I even migrated from Office 365 to Google while I was abroad. I was on the phone to the Google support, and they were helping me do it. And I thought, like, whenever there's a problem, you always think, I need to get back to resolve that problem, but you actually don't. Most of the things you can do, well, actually everything you can do is, you can just be based anywhere, as long as you've got Wi-Fi strong and it's secure. So everything that I've done, I've pretty much based it on the fact that I'm not going to be in this country. Then I think it got to about the 3rd or 4th year, my life and business goal was to travel once a month. I think it's probably the 3rd year, to travel somewhere once a month. And so I was like, right, where can I go per month? And I'll just book it as I go along, lastminute.com. And so I went to like Moldova, Croatia, Montenegro, Australia, New Zealand, Athens, Greece, Spain, like you name it, like anywhere I could go, I'd go to. And every time I'd bring my laptop with me, and I would just keep into kind of routine, whichever country that I was working from. Again, just researching like Wi-Fi and security. And as long as I could work from somewhere, I was happy to kind of travel. And it just built up to the point where I was like, right, now I can go away for a long duration, which is what I'm doing now.
Amazing. Fantastic. Real globe trotter you are. So talk to me about, you mentioned tech stacks. Obviously that was quite fundamental in enabling you to be able to work from anywhere. So let's talk about kind of your fundamental components of your tech stack, because all accountants want to know the detail. You mentioned Google, you moved from Office to Google, so obviously that's kind of a key component of what makes everything tick for you. What else is kind of integral in terms of your tech stack to enable you to work from anywhere?
So it's definitely, the fundamentals actually security. So it was actually making sure that I had the security, because by the time you started adding on all the technology, you need to make it secure, because obviously going to different locations and making sure the Wi-Fi is secure, that was one of the prime areas. And so I used a product called Bitium at the time, which then,
what was it, Alex?
It was a product called Bitium, which is kind of extinct now because it got sold to Google.
Okay.
So now I've implemented a product called Practice Protect. Again, like they're based in, funny enough, Bali and Australia. So so you get to know like all the app stack. Xero, I use Xero. I don't use any other software, because it was just something that, again, it was like super easy to use, and that was a cloud product anyway. Other fundamentals was the accounting software. Again, I'm going to talk about products that I used to use. Things have changed so much. So the only product that I was able to use at the time was Digita. It was the only one that had the cloud access, believe it or not. And we're not only talking about 6 years ago, but the technology wasn't there. So now we have Tax Calc and we have Xero. They are fully cloud products. But we didn't have those products before. So it was making sure I can do accounts prep, making sure I can have a workflow system in place so I don't miss any deadlines, and making sure that the practice was secure and we could do bookkeeping. The app stack was kind of quite small back then. So I knew Xero before it had any add-ons. Then it had 5. Then the second year it had 20. The third year it had 300. So it developed really, really fast, but over about 3 years, and now over 1,000. So that's how I became to learn about the technology really early on, because I knew them all intimately from early days. So I was able to kind of learn them inside out then, not now.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess one obviously you mentioned there about having a practice management solution that enables you to kind of monitor deadlines and ensure, the team are aware of what needs to be done by when. So talked about what is your practice management solution of choice to make sure that the system is there to ensure nothing falls through the cracks.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's really, when you say about some of the app stacks, I mean, originally I used Practice Manager with Xero, and I actually still continue to use that because it works really well for me, because I customized it, but I used it in the practice before when Xero purchased it. And for me, like, everything integrates because I use like Practice Ignition, and I use Slack, and I use Zapier, and everything is just fully automated. But once something is fully automated, it's then really hard to move away from a product because it becomes part of your puzzle. But again, there's so many cool workflow managers out there. I think it's just really deciding like what's best for your practice, because, like, for example, Pixie is like a really good product, and like I want to move over to Pixie, but it's then having where I feel a bit more like a traditional firm now. I'm like, oh no, I've got like this product and I have to move over because it's got like extra additional features. But now it's like when we do move, it's like a big job. So I don't feel as agile as I used to be. But if you're a new practice, and for sure, like, there's definitely products out there that would work really, really well from the offset. But then, like, for me, like, I use Practice Manager because it was available to me at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Now there is, everyone has a tendency of kind of succumbing to shiny new toy syndrome, isn't it? So new software comes out, and now, like you said, we are spoiled for choice. There are so many new products coming to market and so many things that are good at what they do. But then on the flip side, there is this tendency that we have that, are we missing out? The FOMO that we get, that, oh, we've got this solution, but actually there's this new toy that does this, this, and this. And are we missing out by not moving to it? And the danger there is that you end up just, spending lots of time and energy just moving from one system to another, whereas just dedicating yourself to one which does most of the things you need it to do is kind of sufficient. And there are other things that perhaps are more important to be worked on. So how do you, let's start answering some of the questions. Before I do, how the big one really is, because obviously when you have a remote, when you're working remotely, there are two fundamentals really that you need to have in place. And you've just talked about the process that you've got in place, but the other is the people. You've got to have the right people to run the process to enable you to do what you do and work from anywhere and live that lifestyle. So give us some of the, some of your thinking, what kind of things you put in place, how you structured your team to be able to run the processes, to be able to run the practice, to allow you to work from anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it does go down to basics. So if we strip it back before having any employees and just being on my own, and then when you start up a practice, and then essentially you then have to then start to employ people, you then have to educate and teach those what to do, how you do it, how you would like things to get done. And so in my mind, I was like, right, if I document everything that I do, then it's going to save me the time to then teach somebody. And so what essentially I done is I set up Confluence, and then I have, because it's done in spaces, so I then set things up where you've got like the how-tos, like your wiki internally. So you've got how-tos for the internal systems, and then you've got your how-tos per client. So it's all segregated with like bookkeeping accounts, management accounts, any cool things that we do extra for those clients, because we have hybrid roles in the firm. And so it just means that we do more than just finances. And so it was important that we documented it per client. So it means that whoever I employ, they will have the full background of that particular client and how that client likes to be treated, rather than me having to spend my time with every single new person that starts and then say to them, this is how they like it. So I've just done like videos and things like that and explained a little bit about the client, a little bit about their process, a little bit how I'm involved, whether they're a mate, whether they're not, like just the whole like background of all of that stuff. And it's all accessible. So it just means that whoever you recruit, wherever they are, because you don't need to recruit people in the UK, that they've got access, and because it's all cloud and digital, they can access everything. And the beauty about having the cloud technology in the app stack is it can be accessed from anywhere in the world. So you don't necessarily need to pick somebody again from the UK. So we've selected a team that are fully qualified in ACCA, for example, and that's my preference.
Yeah, amazing. No, that's bang on, really, kind of having you disseminating that knowledge in the form of videos and systems that your team can then pick up and follow, so you don't have to then train them each time something new happens. So just talk to us a little bit. So in terms of the detail, where do you actually, what system do you use? Do you house them within software, or is it just kind of a playbook in Google Docs or something? Where do you house those systems, those Loom videos for the
Yeah, they're all in Confluence. So I don't know if you heard me mention it before.
Confluence. Yeah, I think you mentioned something about it. I'd never heard of it. Confluence.
Yeah, that's one product. So, so like most of so we predominantly work with technology SaaS models. So when you work with technology companies, they always research things to make their life efficient and to make things like really cool and fast and interlinked and everything. So I don't know if anybody does work with technology, but when you start looking at their bills and when you do their bookkeeping and you start looking at their own app stack and things like that, you start to see the products they use and you start to see them regularly, and consistently within most of the technology companies. That's when I start researching, go, oh, what does that do? You learn a little bit more about it, and it's not to do with accounting. It's to do with systems and processes. If a technology company is using it, it's probably going to be good for most of your clients.
Yeah. So Confluence is basically a place where you can house all your how-tos in one place, right? And you have a company wiki on there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right in terms of, looking further afield and not being so kind of pigeonholed in terms of just looking at products that are made for the accountancy market. I mean, we use Notion to do something similar. And Notion is an amazing software.
I was going to say Notion, yeah. So there's usually Notion. So yeah.
Absolutely. It just, I love it. I use it kind of to manage, my 3 businesses in my life and everything, and everything just works. And if you've got a piece of software that is helping you to be efficient, to work efficiently, then that's a good thing. That's going to help you to spend your time in the right place. Yeah. So brilliant. Confluence. I like it. Right. Let's start answering some of these questions. So Jodie's asking, have your clients been supportive of the work anywhere move?
Hi, Jodie. She's a friend. How are you doing? Yeah, so basically, before lockdown, I used to think, when I travel, I'll let people know. But I thought I'm not necessarily don't tell them my every move, because that's not fair. But essentially what I did is I'll say to people, I'm going to be away, I'm going to travel, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be doing that, etc. And the clients that are attracted to what we do essentially are happy with what I do because they're similar minded. And so essentially I've created a client base who are happy with how we operate and how we work. I still work when I'm abroad and I still have my meetings, but what COVID has allowed us to do is really strengthen the fact that in our processes, but to then our clients to then feel comfortable to have Zoom meetings and then know that it's okay and they can still get the support that they need, irrespective of whether it's a Zoom meeting or a face-to-face meeting. I mean, we all love a face-to-face meeting, having a glass of wine or a beer together. That can't ever change, and you always need that human interaction. But when you come to things like a pandemic and you're looking after your well-being for yourself and for your clients and for your team, then it puts you into a different situation where you can then say, right, well, if I'm going to be stuck at home for the next year, do you want to be in your home location? The answer for me to that personally was no. If I can be anywhere, where would I want to be? And so I placed myself in Bali and then had the best of both worlds. And then it allowed me to then not only work with my clients, but they really understood where I was coming from and vice versa. And I've actually encouraged and supported other clients to then work remotely. So some of them end up going to Portugal, for example, because they were inspired by what I was doing. I then signed up clients being away because they were like, well, she's actually doing it. She's actually got the systems in place. That's what we want in our business. So it was a win, really.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I guess at the end of the day, as long as you're keeping clients happy, as long as they're getting their stuff done that you've promised them to do, and as long as there are people servicing them that are answering their queries promptly and efficiently, then it doesn't really matter. And like you say, it kind of inspires people. And I don't know whether you've read the book 4-Hour Work Week, but essentially it's that mindset that the old mindset of work where we would slog away for 30, 40 years in anticipation of this retirement where we're going to start, doing the things we want to do. That's kind of really old school thinking. That why can't you kind of enjoy retirement now, like have mini retirements, actually live the life that you want and build a business around you that allows you to do all the things that you want to do whilst you're still young enough and have the energy to do it. So absolutely makes sense, Alex, being an inspiration to your clients as well. Colin is asking, what do you miss about being in one office?
What do I miss about being in an office? I mean, I haven't worked in an office for years. So I don't really miss anything. No offense. Like genuinely, like I've even being when I was in an office in my employment, I remember sitting at my desk thinking, I've got to sit here 9 till 5, and I'd smash my work out and I'd be like, what should I do for the rest of the time? I'll be like, I could probably work a little bit later, or, so I think I've had it in the back of my mind about not being in an office. I really struggle with that side of things, hence why I'm more of an outdoorsy person. I'd rather be sitting in a cafe with a beach view. So, yeah, sorry.
A follow-on question from that then. And what about your team? Are your team office-based, or are they fully remote as well? And how do they kind of handle? So are they in an office first, or are they fully remote as well?
No, fully remote.
Yeah, fully remote. Okay. So how do they? Is it an issue that they don't get to have that kind of social interaction that comes with being in an office, or do you have alternatives that you set up to allow them to still feel part of a team?
So it's all a little bit strange right now because we've got COVID, but the plan was, I mean, everyone's probably going to come to Bali at some point.
Wow.
And like, we would like have our little retreats there and things like that. But before that, we used to travel. So we'd go to I took the team to Montenegro, for example. We went to Croatia and Croatia, Bosnia, and Montenegro, went whitewater rafting. And really did cool things like that. So you bring them together in other ways. And if you say to a team, like, where would you rather be? What would you rather do? Like, do you want to like take regular holidays or like meet up in certain places and have remote working? Then what the answer is going to be. But it's very, very flexible. So the times are, of course, they need to meet the client demands and the deadlines and things like that. But otherwise, it's quite flexible. And I think most people nowadays, they prefer that. And I was in that generation where that's what I wanted for ages. So again, like, I know COVID hasn't got like a positive side, but the part that is good is that it's forcing something that a lot of us have wanted for a long time, and it's going to force bosses to essentially implement that going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I talk about that a lot in terms of, we adopted a ROWE, a results-only work environment 2 or 3 years ago, which is quite alien at the time, that people can work when, where, and how they want as long as the work gets done. But the kind of the silver lining of the pandemic has been that there's been this realization that work can happen without seeing your employees with their bums on seats. A good thing that people are able to now allow their team members to work when, where, and how they want, and focus really on the work as opposed to focusing on the people, just trusting the people to get the work done. Most people.
The thing is, when you talk about the trust side of it, yeah, of course there is a trust side of it, and you do need to be a little bit chilled when it comes to things like that. But also remember that there are cloud softwares where you've got cloud management software, so you can see what's going on and then you can see when the deadlines have been met. So it's more about, like, if you want to like look into it, you can do if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, having those tools to give you that that access and that ability to manage. So Charlie here from Facebook is asking, did you say you have over 1,000 clients?
No, I didn't say that.
How many clients do you have approximately?
We've got probably about 70. So in terms of client size and in terms of how many clients, I think, again, that's kind of, I wouldn't say relevant, but we go for like large, high quality clients and quantity. And again, I mentioned that we have like hybrid roles within our company. So we do more than just finances. So we have like split people who are really involved in clients, and then we take on all their finances as well. So we've got some clients who have never had a finance department. We've pretty much been their remote finance team for years.
Yeah. So when you say hybrid, what do you mean? Just that essentially you provide that full finance function service to your clients?
No, so a hybrid role isn't necessarily finance function. So they could be involved in like billing and some customer support tickets and supporting like the directors. So it's not necessarily just finance, it's doing everything else for them. So wherever the director needs support on, if it's something that we can do, we just document it, we understand and learn the process, and we're like, right, okay, we can take it on. So if it's something that it's like something that isn't going to work, if anything, if you can document something and put a checklist or a process together, it can be outsourced. So if we take that on, we'll do it.
Okay. That's very interesting. So what kind of, so you mentioned admin is one area, customer service is another area. Do you have like packages and how do you kind of price for these things? Does it kind of prop up, or is there certain things that you
No, we just like give them an employee.
Okay.
Basically, we don't give it. We have like it's like a fixed fee per month, and they're like an employee to them, and it works really well. So and basically we get to be more involved in their business because we provided a support, and it takes the pressure off. And then we get visibility on how it works internally. So if somebody's come from practice and they like industry and they love industry, it's like the best of both worlds, I think.
Absolutely. Okay. So someone's saying interested in your remote team. I'm not sure whether you said this, but what's the split of staff in the Philippines, Sri Lanka, and the UK? I don't think it's
split. Like it's like 30, to be fair. So
okay.
Yeah, but that's because they're really early days, and so we're growing both Philippines and Sri Lanka. So we kind of keep them as even as possible.
Okay, amazing. So 30. And in terms of the roles that you've got going on, say in the Philippines and Sri Lanka, what are they doing for you out there? Is that mainly kind of compliance work, or do they have client contact?
Yeah, they have. I mean, they're amazing. Like my team are like, honestly, I can't even say this enough, but they're like the best team ever. So like they support me with anything and everything that I need help on. I've just gone through like really difficult time personally, and they just all stepped up and helped out. And I honestly, like, I couldn't really appreciate the amount of effort and work that they put into it, but they cover all grounds for the business. And I just feel very fortunate that I've got this system going on. It's all feels like it's kind of all come together, but it's not happened overnight. So but now I've learned and understood the cultures, like the principles, how people operate, how people run. It's allowed me to get to this stage where I am now, where I don't need to take my laptop everywhere.
Yeah, cool. And have you ever visited the staff in the Philippines and Sri Lanka?
No, because it's all on lockdown.
Of course. So, if someone is interested in trying to, build up a remote team with people from, say, building an offshoring team, where did you go? Did you go to an agency? How did you go about hiring them? Did you use sites like Upwork or,
I mean, with that side of things, I'd probably say just to get in touch, because obviously for those sorts of things that I actually do run that through that startup practice. So anything like that in terms of remote working, then happy to put you in touch or whatever. But I'll keep that on the lowdown.
All right. Well, there you go. You can get in touch with Alex if you want to know how you can build your remote team in Philippines and Sri Lanka. Ashley's asking, if you were setting up your business today, what software would you use?
If I was setting up your business today? What, as in my accountancy firm or something different?
Yeah, your accountancy firm, I would imagine.
What software? What software would I use? Probably to what I've got now, like Xero, Dext, not Receipt Bank. What else can I think of? I can't even think of the software.
the same as you, because it works, right? What you're doing at the moment is working for you.
practice ignition. So again, that's like helps me automate all my proposals and everything. Yeah, so they're the three main ones I can think of off the top of my head.
Oh, Antonio's asking, what software was that? That was a while ago. I think we were talking about Confluence at the time, Antonio, so check that one out. What would your advice be to a would-be startup business?
Read my book.
What's the book called?
So it's Secrets of Business for Young Entrepreneurs.
There you go. I don't think Rosa's quite young, but
Yeah,
you can check it out.
Yeah.
Young at heart.
Yes. There's so many things that we could go into about starting up a business, but always start with the fundamentals in terms of like your app stack, especially like with bookkeeping, accounting software, and CRM, just purely because once you've got those in place, you can start adding all of them on. And I appreciate that there's a lot, but there are people like myself and Risa that are willing to kind of help and guide you.
Absolutely. How long did it take you to document, and what did you use to do it? I think this kind of question came in when we were talking about the about Confluence. So I'm guessing that just built up over time, just add to it.
Yeah, so I literally, like, I know this is an old school book, but I did read the E-Myth like years ago, together with other books and speaking to people, and they said, like, you know, if you want to sell your business, like it's going to be more valuable if it's all documented. I was like, oh yeah, okay. So I just genuinely did it from the beginning, and I knew that when I'm trying to do and look after and build a business, I didn't really have the time to then train trainees and things like that, new people. I was really struggling, and I was like, how can I do this in a better way? So that's where that's when Confluence came in, because one of my clients used it and said, use that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that's fundamental. Anyone kind of starting up a practice and looking to hire, that's, you know, that practice of actually documenting what you're doing is, you know, it won't be the most urgent thing you have to do, but it certainly is important, and that will be a foundation and help you to do great things later on by documenting your processes. So I agree. I can recommend it enough. As you're a remote, question from Imran, as you are a remote team, what productivity tools do you use to track work? So Zero Practice Manager, I think you answered that one, didn't you?
Yeah, so Zero Practice Manager, we've used Slack for a while as well, so the team have like some form of like communication. Yeah, so I see like all of the notifications coming in on that, where they interact and help and talk to each other. Yeah, they have their team huddles, I think 3 times a week.
Good. Zach's asking, do you narrow your services to bookkeeping, management accounts, which are commoditized, or all services such as tax planning and audit?
So we do everything apart from audit. So I'm not audit registered, but I outsource that. And then, like I mentioned before, we do other bits and pieces for clients as well. So like their payments or their payroll or their cash flow or their budgets or their billing or their software, the customer support. So just a whole range, really. Just depends what they're after. But as I said, like, we don't have like hundreds and thousands of clients. We kept it very, very small, so that we can just take care of them as and when we need, and just make sure they're looked after.
Yeah, I think you answered this one as well in terms of what you might support directors with. That was when you're talking about admin, customer service, that sort of thing, right? Anything.
I think like when you onboard a client, and if you ask them what their goals are and what they want to do more particularly, a lot of them, that some people like actually want to be on the tools, so they say. Some people don't want to be, they want to spend more time with family or whatever. So if you kind of work out and speak to them and ask them the right questions at the very, very beginning, what they're after, and you can find a solution to help them and to minimize. So you can either take the work on yourself or help them recruit somebody to take on that work. Then you're doing your job in terms of making sure that they're not doing the things that they're not supposed to be doing. And if you look at their time value, they could be doing quotes and estimates for what they're good at doing or what they enjoy doing, and not doing their admin and their finances. So if you can take that away from them, that's more relevant. And bearing in mind most things can be done remotely. So you can either do it with your team or hire somebody to help them.
Absolutely. So do you have kind of, I presume because you're doing this now, you've kind of picked up what the requirements are in terms of these additional services on the admin, perhaps the operation side of things that you're getting involved with. When you're having those initial prospect conversations, do you kind of you put together kind of some sort of package to say, well, we can take this off you and that off you, and if you give us an example of, say, one client, what industry they're in, and how, what you've taken away from them that, say, an ordinary accountancy firm wouldn't think of or wouldn't normally be doing.
So again, like most of them are SaaS models. So we always start off with, for example, like just doing the basics. And then when you get to learn that client, it's like, what else are they doing? Always have your check-in points, always find out what's going on. So that what's happening in the business or what support that they need. And then slowly you can, because some people, like, they need to see that you're doing a good job and that they can trust and rely on what you're providing them. And, I'm not saying that's been perfect. Like, we did fail a few times at the beginning, but then we've then strengthened those processes. And then over time, we've then learned, right, we can do that. Because we're niche with a certain client, like, once we've learned how to do it for one, it's then copy and paste onto another. So it becomes, that model then really, really strengthens, and then it allows us to take more and more on. So, then we'd take on the payroll payments, for example, would be really next step. And we don't need bank access because we'll use Teleroo. And then, for example, we'll take on, we got to the point with this particular client where they were just getting so busy. It's like, right, so should we just take on a full-time member of staff? And then they kind of do work 50-50 for us, and then 50-50 for the client. So it's like then split time. So they'll then split their days between doing work for the client and then work for us. So it really depends per client what their needs and requirements are, and whether or not it's something you want to go down, because it's taken us quite a long time to get to this stage. But we've recognized that our niche client require it. And so we've worked around it, but it's not going to be the same for everybody. So again, we have like SaaS clients mainly. And so I don't know, like a plumber sole trader is not going to need all of that, but a plumber who's got like 10 or 15 employees, who's quite large end, might require that. So again, it really depends on the size of client and what you actually offer, but you can build your practice to whatever direction you want to build it in. That's how I decided to do mine.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up in terms of, the power of niching, knowing who your ideal client is and understanding what they need, and then tailoring your solution to be able to provide them with the service that's going to give them value. So you've clearly made that work for you. So you said your niche is technology SaaS companies, is that right?
Yeah, it's mainly technology, but we do have our 10 questions. Well, I can't remember all of them on the top of my head, right? But it's like, you just make sure that they match your criteria, because how many times have you signed up a client and then they don't really match what you do or what you like, and then they've not been your ideal client and they've either left or you've had to get rid of them.
Absolutely. Indeed. Okay, Alice is asking, I'm planning on going traveling this summer for around 6 months. At the same time, set up and run my accountancy company from wherever I am in the world. What are the things to look out for and key things to make sure this runs smoothly?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really cool, and sounds exciting. So if you want, again, just security, I'd highly recommend security is the main thing. Just making sure that wherever you are, that you're covered in terms of insurances and things like that. Protect the security is really high end, because there's a lot of hackers globally, and so just making sure that's in place. Making sure that you have tested your systems, that they do work globally or in other countries, because, for example, you'll get messages sent back to you to say, that you're in a different country, can you log on? So I've not had to report back, but I think Xero is the main one that will say that you're in a different location. So if you've got your like authenticator set up on your phone, just make sure that that does work. Because I changed my mobile phones and I didn't set it up at one point. And then I was like, oh bugger, like I can't access it. So it took me ages to kind of go round circles and support systems to fix it. So it's just making sure that you've got your authentication in place on your mobile phone so you can access things. There's so many things. What else? Key things. I think that's probably enough for now.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've only got a few minutes left. We've got still about 5 or 6 questions to go through. So let's see if we can go through them very quickly. So make sure everyone leaves with an answer to their question. So ready, fire round. Why did you split your offshore team into different areas? So I think there's a couple of questions asking the same thing. So why some in Philippines and Sri Lanka?
Yeah, so when you start to offshore and you learn about different cultures and different countries, you then learn it's not it's not the same as the UK and everything runs smoothly. So basically, like weather was the main reason. Like I didn't, you don't think like, oh, it's going to be a storm, but it's not like the UK when the storm is going to be little and tiny. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to be down for a day. I was like, what? We've got deadlines. So it was really about business risk. And also, I just wanted to go to Sri Lanka and the Philippines. So genuinely, like it was like mitigating a business risk in terms of different countries. So and also finding and locating ACCA people as well. So it was really important to me, is to make sure that they were fully remote and again, building in different countries as well. So essentially, I want to build like a 24-hour team. Globally. Just big, fun.
Similar question there, just kind of adding, how do you select your remote team?
Yeah, so again, the same as my clients, I have a quite big criteria with the types of people that we hire. So again, I did my research. I found certain companies. I tested them before I signed them up. Their quality of work, their ethic, different things, and I tried different countries as well. Including Zimbabwe and India. Not to say that they weren't any good. They were. It's just that the other countries, they came up higher for us into what we wanted to deliver. So not to say we're not going to go to the other countries, we probably will, but just one thing at a time, because I'm going to be building a team in Bali as well.
Cool. What CRM do you use? Is it just Xero Practice Manager, or have you got something else?
Just Xero Practice Manager, because I think a lot of the stuff is also saved in Practice Ignition.
Absolutely. Have you hired someone that deals with the day-to-day management of your practice?
I have.
So is that kind of a practice management type? And where are they based in the world?
They're based in the UK. So, yeah.
They're in the UK. Brilliant. So they'd kind of do the heavy lifting for you. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's a team effort.
Cool. Actually, why did you move from Microsoft 365 to Google? Was that the security issue?
No, it was to do with it was downtime with Microsoft, always constant updates, and I was like, it was horrendous, and the cost. Actually, I have zero downtime with Google, whereas I had loads of downtime with Microsoft. It could have changed because that was 6 years ago. So yeah, but I prefer Google.
Indeed. Right. Last question. Does your team work UK hours or their local 9 to 5?
They all work different hours. Some of them work 9 till 5. Some of them work 6 till 2. Just whatever really works for the country.
Brilliant. Good stuff. Okay. Let's bring it to an end. Alex, thank you very much for your time today. Hopefully that's been of value to you. If you've been watching and you've got some tangible takeaways there, if you are thinking of running your practice from anywhere in the world, because Alex has shown today that it's clearly possible to work from anywhere, as she does now, running her practice from Bali. So if you have any further questions, just put them in if you're watching this on replay, then you can put them into the comments, and I think Alex is in the group, so I'm sure she'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, feel free to connect with Alex on the usual places. Is that right, Alex? Where are you most active these days on social media?
Probably the best place is just to send an email. So for now, so just alex@soaring-falcon.co.uk, because I'm more likely to see that.
So. Oh, excellent. So, yep, do that. And yeah, if you want to, this will be going on a replay soon onto YouTube and on the podcast as well, Transform Your Profits for Accountants. So be sure to check it out there. Otherwise, hope that's been useful. Thank you so much again, Alex, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.
See ya.